Go ahead and run this sucker. And sure enough, it has what it should have. Let me see if I can find my records here so I can compare. There it is. So records. So we got John, Smith, sales, this, and then it starts going down. These spaces up here, that's done by these end lines, as you may have figured. Those end lines will leave a cushion between each record number plus info associated with it. Also, right here, because of the prefix ++ on J, it immediately becomes 1, 2, and then 3. Had we reversed it, it would have been 0 first, and then 2, then 1, 2, because it does the math at the end. And then the array element, which this apparently has, because one thing I noticed, we'll just use this as a reference, is that the text file appears to act like an array of this nature right here. And you know how these just incremented by 1. You know, I will obviously be 0, so you'll start throwing out John, and then on surname it'll be Smith, because this will now just turn into 1 after that increment, and then it'll be 1 ++, and then 2 ++, and then sales would be under that department, and so on. And then it would, once it gets down to this very bottom, it will go back to this range. It'll compare the I value. When it gets to this point, it'll be like around 3, I think. And then it'll be 4, and then 4 will be compared to the range, and then it'll go back down to this loop, and then it'll be 4 ++, 5 ++, and so on. Alright, so here are the additional things I've noticed here. And the first thing is I'm going to go ahead and extract some comments. So I experimented with other delimiters, but it gives me a break. Escape N seems to be the only acceptable type at the last character of a line. Apparently, anything else forces a search or something. And to show you what I mean, why don't I go ahead and do something like that, a space, and then if I where are your records? Go ahead and end that. I really shouldn't be closing records. So instead of searching after a line break, we'll be searching with a space. We'll save that, and we'll run it, and we'll see what happens. And sure enough, you get a break. And this applies if you were to make it something else, like a letter or anything like that. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my notes over here to kind of explain this for a little bit. So, okay, let's see here. Right here, with if we were to use a matching delimiter of L, as a matter of fact, I can do that right now. Save it, minimize, stop, and then do L like that, and it'll break again. And I'll go back to my notes. Let's see, where did it go? Where are your notes? There you are. So, apparently what it appears to do is, when it gets here, it's going to see that it's not in the file, and the L will search beyond. What it's going to do is it's going to get an out of range element that appears at index 12. We have a constant size lower than that, and we can't perform with this. Whereas if we had this if escape n at this area down there, it sees this as the end of file, and there's absolutely nothing to search below this line, so it works just fine because of that. Like here's the problem here, and the best way to showcase this is if I do something that looks like a step into. Where is it? Actually, it's really a step over. Step into will get into too much detail. It'll dig into the libraries, and we don't need that. So step over is what we really want. So it'll go over this. That skipped because it found reader. And now we're at the point of interest, the while loop. So here it starts off at 0 as I, and then 0 plus 1. Well, it has to be 3, so that's obviously just going to go down to this L statement. And then the 0th element, John, gets a Getline. And then it becomes 1 after that increment. And then this that still does not fulfill the if condition. So it goes on, and then Smith, who's in the first index, gets added on to a get line. And then I think I can go a little quicker here. Sales gets his turn next, and then sales now becomes 3 and 3 plus 4 now fulfills this condition. So we get down here, and we get this telephone number, which will get a get line. And then we're looking for an L. L is right next to it. So it still continues lining things up, giving things their get lines. So this is number 5, 6, 7. That was a miscount. Now it's 7. And then 8. 7 plus plus. Now we're at this. It will do its thing. and we'll continue on. And we'll just fast forward a little bit until it gets to 11. Okay, so that was 11. 11 gets this number, which is the final element in our array, is now going to get their get line. Okay? And then 11 will plus plus into 12, which is out of range. So we want this function, ideally, to stop right here, because now we have this assigned. And read end of file, and bear in mind we're dealing with these L's, and now if we were to still be in this program, we did right here. We snagged the get line, and now it's trying to read the 12th element, and the 12th element is now plussing to 13, or the 13th element rather is where we're at right now, and it's trying to read off of that, which and it's trying to give it a line, which really we can't deal with right now. And if we were to continue to the next step, we get a break. So let's stop that. And we're going to go ahead and knock those out, save, and go ahead and do this new line thing. Go back to our debugger, so it works. Let's see why. Go ahead and do a step into. No, step over. There we go. So we'll get to the while loop. So it's a 0. Okay, we'll go skip a few. Okay, now it's at now it was at 3, and then 3 is now is morphing into 4. Now it's at 4. We'll go along a little bit here. Okay, and that's 7. Now 7 is morphing into 8. Okay, and now it's 8. And we're gonna keep skipping along till it hits 11. And okay, could this one be the 11th? That was the 11th element. Okay, then 11. It was. I should just hover over it. 11's right there. It will assign 11 to this array figure right there, giving it the last get line that we need. And reader end of file, and look what happens here. Reader close. And then the rest is kind of just history. Now what it will do is it'll do a cout statements, and then it'll just start calling for all of those elements, incrementing by starting with 0 and turning into 1 and such, but it's already at 8 at the position that we're at right now. Then it'll become well, it'll be 9. You're not 9 yet. Now you're 9. And they're all nicely placed. So yeah, there's that. And go ahead and throw a couple more things in there. Okay. If you try other characters willy-nilly, the program falls apart in different ways. Here are 2 prime examples. So if we were to try escape T, it will misalign by 2 spaces, as there are only 2 mismatches. They squeeze themselves into spaces in between strings. Let's go for this. And sure enough, you see it's misaligned by these 2 spaces. And Mary is kind of just thrown into this weird cramped area there, and then Paul is squeezed in between here for one bizarre reason. And what does my notes have to say for this here? So with escape T, alright. So it's going to be like getline, 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 getline. And then no tab between phone number and Paul or Mary. So they get rejected because there was no tab between. There was an end line, sure, but not a tab, so they get rejected and then they get thrown here. Whereas the rest, they get their get lines just fine, and then it keeps going. It doesn't give us an exception because the rate, because we don't I guess it just actually I haven't figured out really why, but I guess it just doesn't call for the, it usually doesn't go for, junk array elements. Usually the reason behind that. Let me oops, let me minimize that. Let me do a step into the, see what that could be. Step into. Okay, no, let me stop it. I'm going to do a step over. See what it's doing. So right now it's at 0. Element 0. Okay, 0 plus plus. Okay, now it's 1. 1 plus plus. Okay, now it's 2. And 2 plus plus. And now it's 3. And then 3. Oh, okay, so 3 will go into here. The third element will get the read line. We'll get the reader. Okay, we'll get the get line. Okay. And then now we're with Mary. And what happens with Mary? So Mary should get a get line. Right? Let's see. Then this will be 5. And then this will be 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, it cut short. So it overlooked the 2 somewhere in between. So I was reading that wrong somewhere. I'm sure I'm sure I am. I could hover over with my mouse, but I think you get the point. And then if we do something random with K, it will completely stop the line jumping. Nothing in the program has K, and the while loop stops at the 4th pass. So if we were to do something like this, it will throw an error like this. And let me go ahead and get my notes here. So with if k, so it's going to do the get line for John, get line for Smith, get line for sales, get line for that. Then it can't find k anymore. So okay, all right, we're out. Values get called and placed in a squeeze spot in original format, and that's what you see right there. And just to use a little bit more of the step into action, let me go ahead and see what it's doing here. So we're in the beginning of the while loop. It's at 0. Okay, now it's at 1. Now it's at 2. Now it's at 3. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and get to the 4th element. And it skips because looks like we were trying to seek a k, but you know, it just wouldn't really have any of that. So it just pretty much, how do I phrase this? I'll have to think for a little bit here. So when this 3rd array element is plugged into this, which is when it's 4, and then we try to get, and then k just kind of goes to oblivion. K forces it to go all the way to the end of file. I see. Because it'll keep searching till the last character for k, and that's why. And then once it gets to the very end and it fails to find k, we go back up to this while, and then it says, okay, there's no more things to search, and there's no, and we're done with this thing. And then it goes, okay, that explains why. And let me go ahead and copy and paste this whole chunk out here. So the first array element falls into else as I equals 0 and will increment as the loop progresses, as we've seen. It also appears that Getline will jump lines so long as the 3rd argument matches what's in the text document test with this. Basically, you don't need to have tab. And as a matter of fact, what I'm doing here is that the delimiter isn't bound to tab. That tab was just a value that was just assigned that we chose to use. But if we were to just change it to this, and let's do a little fix there, it'll work just fine. The delimiter never actually displays. It's just used as a condition as shown with 1. Now, we've been using spaces and we've been using tabs, which are more, not visible. They're just invisible characters in a way, but they space things out. Interestingly enough, if we do something like this, because I was suspecting that when the console was displaying John Smith and everything, it was followed by a space or something like that. Now watch what this does. What are you doing? That's what you're doing. No ones anywhere. It doesn't follow John, doesn't follow there. It's just used simply as a like a tool, or as a rather of like the terminology the book uses, a delimiter. That's all it is. It's just like check for this, and then if you do see it, you just start performing this getline thing. If you don't see that, then don't even bother. So it never actually displays. It's just used as a condition. And as a final note, I could comment a whole lot more ways the program can go wrong, but that will drag on too long. It's also a bit abstract to explain, and I trip over my words and stuff when trying to explain this kind of stuff. But basically, I think I said enough to finally actually understand this program. Let's just run it one more time. It works. And really, you gotta watch how things line up. And you gotta make sure the Getline does its thing. So these array elements will start, utilizing them. Well, they'll start falling into place because they need their Getlines. Otherwise, they kind of fall into cyberspace or wherever those things fall into. But yeah, I guess with that said, I can finally conclude this program. I'll just say yeah.